In this lecture, we will take a look at the basic aspects of Google Docs. So the first thing to do is make sure that you're signed into your Google Drive account. Once that's done, what I would recommend first is setting up a series of folders. It's good practice to make sure that your folders are created as your content gets going. So I've got a bunch of folders created already, and what I'm going to do first is go up to the red New button in the upper left-hand corner and click on it. So to create a folder, all I would do is click the plus folder button, and a pop-up would come on my screen asking me what the name of that folder should be. I'm going to title this folder Course Documents, or Course Docs for short. Then click Create. It'll take just a second and make a new folder called Course Docs. It shows who it's created by and when it was created. Then over on the right-hand side in that information panel, it will also tell me any of the activity within that particular folder. For now, I'm going to pop that details off the screen just by toggling the little eye icon in the upper right-hand corner. Then I'm going to go back to that New button, and I'm going to scroll down right to the middle and create Google Docs. It's going to take just a second and load the Google Docs application. As you can see, it looks very much like a simple word processor, and that's essentially what it is. But there's no software to download. As long as you have a browser and an internet connection, you can create new Google Docs and work within the word processing application right in the cloud. So the first thing I would recommend is coming over to the upper left-hand corner of your document and titling. Give it a new name and something that's relevant to what the document's going to be about. So I'm going to call it Course Doc 1 Intro. Obviously, you could call it whatever you'd like. Then I'm going to click OK. Now, a little bit about the basic screen orientation. Next to the course document, you can see there's a star. Very similar to what we saw in the Google Drive introduction. The star here will add a favorite into a special folder within your Google Drive that allows you to access this particular document more frequently. To the right of that, you'll see a little folder icon. If you don't like where the document is placed by default, you can always change it here. Or, like the document folder we just set up before, I can click this folder icon and move that document to my new Course Docs folder that I just made. So even without closing the document, you can move it to a different folder. If I find that I put that document into the wrong folder, I can choose Move to Folder again and pick a different one. Just by hovering my mouse over the folder icon, it can tell me which folder that document is currently in. So just down below the Course Doc Intro title, the star in the folder, you'll see the basic Google Docs app drop-down menu. Now this should look familiar to just about everybody who's used a word processor in the past. From the File menu are some options that you would expect, like New, or Open, or Rename, or Move to a Folder, or Move to Trash. But there are some other options that are implicit to Google Docs. For example, at the top is Share. Down towards the middle, you'll see an option called See Revision History. Again, we will talk about revision history. If you have the need to change the language of your Google Doc, you can certainly do that. Then down towards the bottom, you have some download options. You can download it and convert it into a docs format, ODT, rich text, PDF, plain text, or even as HTML. You can also publish your content to the web. And again, we will talk about publishing and sharing options towards the end of this lecture. But just so you know at this point, you can download these documents if you needed to print them or email them. You could publish them to the web for other people to see, or you could share them and allow people to edit and make changes to your document. You can also choose page setup to do landscape or portrait orientation, and then also print, just like you would from Microsoft Word or Pages. From the Edit menu at the top of the screen, you have Undo and Redo, of course. Then you have Cut, Copy, and Paste. You have items that were stored to the web clipboard. You have Select All, and then Find and Replace. Very similar to what you'd see in Microsoft Word. From the View menu, you have some basic options about showing the ruler, the equation toolbar, spelling suggestions. You could compact the controls, and all that does is change the general layout of the screen. To get those controls back, you could come over here to the double-headed arrow on the upper right-hand corner and click that, and your menu bar would come back again. From the View menu, you could change the print layout mode to editing or suggestions or viewing, and again, we'll look at those when we get into some revisions. From the Insert menu, you have some options as to items that you could insert, like pictures, links to outside resources, equations. Using a basic equation editor, Google Draw, you could insert a table, insert footnotes, and the research pane is going to be particularly helpful, and we'll look at that later as well. Any special characters you would need, like trademark symbols. You can also insert page numbers and page count, page breaks, headers and footers, very similar to what you'd see in a traditional word processor. But again, all of this is done in the cloud right in your browser. From the Format menu, you've got some simple formatting options. And one of the drawbacks you'll find about working in Google Docs is that there are limited formatting options. There isn't the ability to upload all kinds of crazy fonts that you might want to use in your Google documents, but there is a good variety of font and formatting options that you can use. But it is limited. So you've got some paragraph styles that you can either create on your own or modify the existing ones. You've got things like alignment for left-centered and justified, line spacing options, certainly creating numbered and bulleted lists, and then clearing any formatting from any text to go back to normal text. As you can see, they're grayed out here, but if I had an image, I could crop it, replace it, or reset the image sizes, and then also add alt text to an image. If you're familiar with how web pages work, alt text is the text that would appear when you can't see the image or when you hover over it with your mouse. And then, of course, at the top, the basic formatting, bold, italic, underline, strike through for editing, and then superscript and subscript, of course. From the Tools menu, you have a couple of options that are very helpful, especially within Google Docs. First is spell check, and spell check with suggestions, define and word count certainly. But then you have a unique feature to Google Docs, and that is the research pane. I'm going to click the research pane here just to pop that out and give you an example. Over on the research pane, you can use Google search to do some research right within your Google Doc. You can search for everything, images, certainly Google Scholar articles, quotes, or look up in the dictionary, anything on your personal G+. So right within Google search, if I wanted to find out some more information about ancient Egypt, if that's what my paper was on, I could do a simple search, and within a couple of seconds, it's going to give me some basic web results. So if I found an article that I wanted to use, I could insert a direct link here. I could preview the website just by popping out what that website looks like. I could insert a link into my document, or I could use the Cite button to start a citation. And what you would see here is that not only did Google Docs put a number 1 after my resource, but it also started to add a footnote. If I collapse all these research panes and I scroll down to the bottom of my document, you'll see that it added a citation automatically where this citation occurs within the text. So the research pane is very helpful. One of the other helpful add-ons that you can use within Google Docs is EasyBib, and you'll see that as a bonus lecture here in this section. As far as the rest of the controls go, up in the Tools menu, you have the ability to translate the document into another language, and you can certainly set up some interesting preferences here about how to create auto text options similar to what you would do in Word. The last two menus here, first of all, add-ons. You can search the Google Marketplace for some interesting add-ons, one of which that would be helpful for teachers and students is EasyBib. If you're familiar with EasyBib, it helps you create automated citations, similar to what we just did with the research pane, but in a separate document. And you can manage add-ons or remove other add-ons. The Help menu will give you access to Google Docs Help, all kinds of different tutorials within Google's platform, and you can also look at the number of keyboard shortcuts that might make your life a little bit easier managing your documents. Right down below the drop-down menu are some tools that you should familiarize yourself with. And this is probably one of the biggest issues that people have with Google Docs. It's simply that the icons aren't exactly the easiest to recognize. So as you go across, you've got the print icon, undo and redo, paint format, similar to what you'd see in Word, where you can highlight a block of text and then match the formatting. You have zoom for the document. You have the style for the text that you're currently working with. You have the font, and again, it's a limited number of fonts, but there's still a good amount of variety. And down at the bottom, you can search for more fonts and add them as needed. Font size, and of course, you can type a number in here instead of picking one of their formatted numbers. Shortcuts to bold, italic, and underline, text color, and highlight color. Here you can toggle between those two. Insert a link, insert a comment, which we'll talk about in another lecture here, and then the More button, which gives you options for left, right, center, justified, line spacing, bulleted lists, certainly indent, decrease indent, increase indent, and then, of course, clearing the formatting. Then just below the Tools menu, you have the ruler, and similar to Microsoft Word or Pages, you have the ability to change the indents, change the margins, just by using different components of the ruler. So I just changed the indent and changed the margin. If I wanted to make that margin skinnier, I could do that and change the right indent by dragging the arrow. And those options are also available right within the Page Setup menu. So you have page setup, portrait, landscape, and then over to the right you have margin. So that will do it for the basic screen orientation for our Google Doc. Now let's look at actually getting some content in there and manipulating it.